On this day in history, 1974, serial killer Ted Bundy botched the abduction attempt of Carol Durant. Obviously, this guy was crazy. I mean, what sane man actually believes he has any power over women? You know why women cross their arms when they're angry? Boobs. It's a little reminder of who's really in charge. Live from Wattpad Nation, it's the Corner Booth, your weekly broadcast where we talk about all things centered around the big orange W. And if you haven't realized already, this is a previously recorded episode, or what we call a canned episode. We're going to be answering questions this week from our hashtag on Twitter, the thread in threads, I should say, in the cafe forum, and even some of our personal inboxes on Wattpad. So if you are watching this broadcast and you still want to ask a question, please do. We will get to them on our next broadcast, episode 33. But we really wanted to kind of dig into some of these things, some of these questions that are floating around Wattpad Nation. And that being said, I have a very special panel for you tonight who are going to tackle this long list of questions. I have Miss Rita Kovac, Miss Jessica B. Fry, and Jaime Diaz. So we're going to kick this off with a little game we call, or I guess the portion of the broadcast that we call the High Five. The game, I guess, is going to be really called 1,000 Words, ? And this is how it's going to work. You're going to see kind of an abridged moment here. It's like we just fast-forwarded through time. And so let me explain how this works. I am going to send Jessica a starting line, the very first sentence of a very famous book, which I'm hoping that you've all read. And if you haven't, then hopefully after this you'll pick it up. But I'm going to send her that very first sentence. She is going to draw a picture and send it to Rita, and she'll have 60 seconds to do so. You're not going to really see the 60 seconds. We're just going to, fast forward through time. What Rita is going to do upon receiving this picture is try to write the sentence that she thinks the picture is depicting. She is going to send that picture to Miss Jaime, and Miss Jaime herself is going to draw another picture. And we're going to be able to show you these the finished products on the screen. We're going to be able to edit them in, and we're going to have hopefully a lot of fun with this. So, Miss Jessica, if you're ready for the sentence, I am going to message it to you.
All right. I'm the one member of my family without artistic skill with pictures, and I get this challenge.
This is exactly why I do it.
Exactly.
I read this sentence one more time, and I'm just like, man, I am so glad I don't have to draw this picture.
That is so
I know. That's exactly what it was supposed to do.
That's why we love you.
So true.
Okay, here we go.
I love you. I just got it.
Okay. You love it, right? It's awesome, right?
I do, and I'm going to come and get you.
It's that good.
It is.
This is really exciting.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about this is going to be able to see like everything side by side. That'll probably be pretty priceless.
This looks ridiculous.
It's supposed to!
Of course it is.
All right, time.
This is it. This is like the worst picture. All right.
And so Jessica is going to take a picture of her picture and send it over to Miss Rita, who is going to write a sentence for us. Once she receives it, Rita, let me know when you got it, and you'll have 60 seconds to develop a sentence.
Do I really have to close my eyes like this?
Okay, 60 seconds starting now.
No,
Now?
I need more time. Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm terrible.
You have to let me know.
Yeah. You got a minute to close your eyes, man. I'll let you know when it's over.
I'll leave this up for you, Rita.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're
Okay.
Oh my goodness, and it's backwards, I think, on this camera.
Oh, it's not showing up backwards for us. It's just-
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
that's fine.
This is lovely artwork. It really is.
Is that not stunning? I mean,
It is.
haven't I done?
I am incredibly impressed.
My grandfather was a professional artist. He
Because
made
I'm
a living
honest.
off of this. And this is what his granddaughter can do.
Oh, can I look now?
No. You got 5 more seconds.
And why don't? And this is not going to be the episode tomorrow.
Okay, Jess, you can put it down.
All right, Jess. All right, so this is Imaze, which I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. Okay, so Rita's sentence goes a little like this. I stood in the town square on a sunny day, nearing the 13th hour in April 1984. So very close, Miss Rita. And
Sure,
the pictures actually are supposed to depict George Orwell's first sentence from 1984. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. So thank you very much, Mano. Brilliant, brilliant work. I found out, well, we're all writers now. That's just wonderful. So now we're going to the portion of the broadcast which we call Cream or Sugar. And it is just that moment where we're actually able to put you, Wattpad Nation, in the spotlight, which makes this my favorite portion of the broadcast. And this panel is going to share with us the Cream, a relatively unknown Wattpadder who has risen to the surface, or at least the top of this panel's library, or an established Wattpadder whom a panelist wants to show some love. Throw him a little sugar. So I'm going to start with Miss May. Who do you got for us for Cream or Sugar this week?
Okay, great. This week I have Cream. And her username is Aries_34. It's ARIES_34. And she's got this wonderful initiative which consists of writing a poem on a different color for each day in November. And the title is Color Me November. We are about 10 people already participating, and I'm calling everybody to join this wonderful idea. Write a poem about a different color for each day in November.
It's just such a really, really cool project. Thank you so much, man. That's really, really awesome. Really awesome. Miss Jessica Fry, who do you have for us?
All right, well, today I have at Emily LK. She is actually one of the first writers who I met through the Share Your Story, Find a Critiquer editor files on Wattpad when I first joined. And she was working on a book called The House of Oxus and House of Sarkons. Both are now completed, and they're called The Dragon's Throne and The Dragon's Fury. Wonderful story that plays with magic and dragons, and Corey is this young woman who has a talent that involves singing, dragons, dreams, and all kinds of dream weaving. And the Kalaris is this ruler who she ends up working with, and it's all about her not fitting into this this role that she's supposed to, and as she's figuring out who she is, and quite the adventures, and of course dragons, because who doesn't want more dragons in stories?
Yeah.
Yes, always dragons. But it's very well written. It's engaging. It is still one of my all-time favorite series on Wattpad, and I was so glad when she came back on, and I get to finish the last few chapters, and I'm sort of holding off for a special occasion when I can really enjoy them. But they're going to be amazing. So she's a fantastic writer, wonderful person too, and yeah, getting very nostalgic now for when I first joined Wattpad and remembering, oh, look at these amazing stories.
That's so great, though. I think by far, hands down, Sean Connery was my favorite dragon ever.
He was a fantastic dragon, yes.
He's such a good dragon. I don't know what it is about it. Miss Rita, who do you got?
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Jacqueline Garlick, and she's relatively unknown on Wattpad, but she is actually a published writer. She started off as self-published on Amazon, but then Amazon saw her success and they contracted her under one of their own internal labels. So she has a couple of books out there. My son is having a tantrum, and you can probably hear him. So
Yeah, it's all good.
okay. But today I'm going to talk about her book that's called If Only I Had, which she is serializing on Wattpad. And this is, I believe, the first of a 5-part series that she's putting up this first book in its entirety. And here is the blurb. Denver Monroe is the love of Kyla Cooper's life, her soulmate, her confidant, her best friend. That is until Aubrey Martin, every boy's dirty fantasy and the spoiled daughter of a powerhouse attorney, decides to move in on her man. Things heat up when Aubrey makes her intentions known at a party, and feeling the pressure, Kyla decides to give in to temptation, afraid that if she doesn't, Aubrey will make Denver an offer he can't refuse. But is Denver that shallow? Is that all he wants? Is the bond between Kyla and Denver really that fragile? A wild barn party, a disturbing sensation, a foolish prank, a crash. One bad decision leads to another until Kyla must face her greatest fear. Will she give in to her long-suppressed telepathic gift in time to reach Denver and solve the mystery of what happened, or will the truth of that night remain forever buried beneath a lie-filled pact? Now, this book is told from 4 different points of view, including the 2 main characters and the antagonist, and there's also a 4th mystery voice, which the author won't reveal the source of until the final book in the series. So, you know, this is a very compelling read, and I suggest you check it out. So, again, her name is Jacqueline Garlick, and she goes by Jacqueline GP on Wattpad.
Wow, it sounds like a really, really amazing premise. You're not completely lost when it comes to switching personalities, switching perspectives?
Yeah, I think if it's done right, if the author does it right, then no. I mean, it adds, you know, I think we've talked about this before in a prior episode of multiple points of view that, you know, you can add so much more to the story. Obviously, sometimes you want an element of mystery, so that's why you choose only one point of view. But then if you want to, you know, show the different aspects, then you do multiple ones. And no, if it's done right, then it can really enrich a story.
And that's great. It's as long as it's not confusing, because sometimes, whew, those head hops, they can lose me like really, really fast. All right, so we're hopping over to the portion of the broadcast which we call the entree. It is the meat of our discussion, and like I said, we're just going to be answering a bunch of random questions that I've, for the most part, found from the Cafe Forum. It's a huge list of threads that are available on Wattpad.com. I don't think that you can access forums or threads in the app as of right now. I know that it's something that a lot of people want because it does add another layer of interaction, and it's really, really fantastic. So if you do access Wattpad through a PC or a Mac or whatever computer device you got, make sure that you give some of these threads a look. Some of them, yeah, it's like you don't really need to pay attention to them. But other ones, they're so thought-provoking, and they have some really, really interesting writers and readers who participate in these threads. So one of the ones that I came across was, it's a thread, like I said, from the Cafe Forum. It's by a Wattpadder known as @NewBubble. And this thread, I believe, is in its 2nd iteration, but it's entitled Getting Noticed on Wattpad. She or he puts a bunch of thought into, let's see, 7 steps on getting noticed on Wattpad. And I kind of want to throw these around to the panelists and kind of weigh them in. And if they agree, great. If they have something to add, even better. But let's kind of take this point by point. Like I said, it's 7 of them. So what New Bubble says to do, number 1, socialize, talk to people, invest in friendships. I advise that you talk to people who write the same genre as you or to people who read the same genre you write in. Panel, what do you think about this? Yay? Nay?
I think
Totally agree, yes.
Mm-hmm. I would add, though, don't limit yourself only to the genres that you read and write in. I've actually found some fantastic friends and good challenges in stretching out of my comfort zone. You can really run into a lot of the same type stories, and sometimes someone in a genre so far opposed to your own can unlock your mind and make you come up with all sorts of great ideas. So definitely agree with the socializing, but don't feel like you have to stay in your genre. And the other writers won't bite, too. They're pretty...
That's true. That's true. That's very true.
But I think it's true, since Wattpad is a social platform, besides a write in one or read in one, it's very important to that aspect, to socialize and to follow the thread and join as more contests and challenges as you can. So in that way, you get to meet other writers. And if you want to try like different genre, like Jessica said, do it. Take the risk. Don't stay or don't get stuck in your comfort zone. Just give that step. And yes, I think it's a very important aspect of how to get known and to meet other people and to socialize.
Very much so. Definitely a social network by every point of the definition. Rita, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I totally agree with both of those viewpoints. And I mean, I guess think of it like if you're at a party, like, you know, don't just hang out by the punch bowl. You have to go and start conversations for you to, you know, be engaged, and then more and more people will start hanging around you if you're talking about something interesting. Don't just wait for someone else to walk up to you.
Very nice. Do not be a digital wallflower. Sorry, the lighting in here is going to be a little crazy because it's 3 o'clock in northern Michigan and it's already starting to get dark. So yeah, that's just great. All right, let's skip over to point 2 from New Bubble. Build audience. Once you socialize, you need to introduce your work to people you are friends with. But don't advertise. Just introduce by stating that you write in this genre, you have a story, and that this is the plot. Be creative, but never advertise like you are so desperate.
It's very important to let others know what to think about a certain theme or a certain discussion in a thread. If you want to participate, go ahead. Let them know what you think and just bring the ideas that you have. Some people will agree, some people won't, but that's the best way to let others know what you think and what you can give to the platform and to others as well.
I love it. Rita, Jessica?
I agree. I think, you know, participate. Do watch out for the advertising. You know, don't be one of those annoying people like, oh, actually allow me to tell you of the greatest thing that you could ever read for this particular question. Be classy with it.
It is a fine line, and like Jessica said, it's, you know, you don't want to blatantly say read my book, but then again, you know, casually working it into conversation when there's, you know, like what are your favorite horror tropes, and then you write, oh, well, in my book, this is what I did. I mean, come on, yeah, it's advertising. So, but then again, how else are you going to get your name out there? So, I think that's totally fine. And you know, once people start reading, and if it's a good story, then word of mouth is really good. Ask them if they like it to tell their friends, and then you know, you'll get more readers that way.
I like it. Or you could be a panelist on the corner booth, and yeah, I mean, you could probably snag some readers that way. So if you're ever interested, you can, you know where to find me. I'm on Wattpad. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. All right, so I'm gonna go over to point 3. Give criticism. Some people would notice you if you give out criticisms and comments on their works. Be honest and be helpful about this. The more people you critique and the more effective your advice is, the more they will seek out your works. What do we think?
Yes and no. I mean, a lot of people who are on Wattpad want criticism, but there are some that don't. So if someone doesn't blatantly either ask you personally or put on their story, I'm open to criticism, don't just read their first chapter and tear it apart, no matter how constructive that advice may be, because that can seriously backfire.
Jessica, I'm in.
I wholeheartedly agree. I've received some very well-intentioned, 5-comment, 2,000-character critiques, and they were given in a kind spirit. But this was a story that had already been published. I had just uploaded it onto Wattpad. It even said it had been published, and I had to explain to this individual, you know, I appreciate that, but no, this isn't open to critiques. We can talk about it on other places. And sometimes, and actually this critique was filled with references to what the writer had done in her story correctly. So really, if you're going to critique, make sure that it's actually going to benefit the person you're critiquing, you know, and definitely, it's like walking into someone's house and commenting on ways they can improve the decor or the meal, and you've just shown up and you're giving them all of this advice, and like, I was just going to share some cookies with you. But I have the people who want, if they want constructive feedback, they'll put it on the story, and then you can respond to them. But I would also say Wattpad is not the best platform for efficient critiques or something or such like that. It's more for social interaction. If you want an in-depth critique, you really need to be going more in-line, in-depth substance, because those 2,000 character comments, they are going to cut you off quickly before you can get into a lot of meat. So if the author says it's okay, and saying how you feel about something is fine, and how it hits you is fine, but particularly when it's, oh yes, in my story I did a much better with the opening sequence, don't do that.
I maybe got anything to add?
Okay, I'm gonna speak like a teacher. I don't critique my students in front of the whole classroom. I call my student to my desk, and I tell him, or I model, what do I want my students to achieve. If I want to give an advice, I do it by inbox, by private message, not in front of everybody. Besides, I'm not perfect, and I think nobody is. And I think we have to be careful in how we approach somebody. We don't want to hurt feelings here. I mean, I'm always with my tom-toms, and I'm always cheering everybody up. And because I want everybody to feel that welcome in Wattpad. If we want this platform to succeed, we want to be good Wattpadders and good Wattpad citizens. So if I want to give an advice or give a constructive critique, I go by inbox.
That's great. I love that. And it kind of gives a personal touch to it as well. All right, so number 4 on these points, New Bubble, like, this is great. I love this, I really do. Invest in a good cover. True, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but that principle is not applicable to everyone, as there are people who value art and will read only if they see an interesting cover.
We are visual people. We human beings are visual, and it's like when I'm in the classroom, if I want my students to learn something and to grab their attention, I want to make like this wonderful picture of what I am showing to them. So if I am going to grab the people's attention, I need to present something that represents, first of all, what I am, what's in the book, and of course something catchy, something that when they go through the Discover search engine, or maybe in somebody's profile, they go like, oh, this is the cover. I want to read this book.
Love it. Jessica? Rita?
I think she covered it really well. I hate saying I judge books by their covers, but there's so many stories out there, you know, that sometimes the cover is what, like, oh, there it is, just sitting out there in this land of other books.
Well, yeah, and which is kind of sad, though, because, you know, there could be a wonderful, the best book ever, but if the author isn't, you know, artistic, or they don't have, like, you know, access to the software to make a nice cover, then they're not going to have the traffic on that book that it really deserves. So it can work both ways. It can both pull you into a story that where the writing isn't as strong, but the cover was awesome, or it could leave you, you know, not even cracking open something that otherwise would be good. So, but I think it's easy enough nowadays with the technology most of us have to put something together, and to something that just attracts the eye. It doesn't have to be flashy, although there are some remarkable covers on Wattpad.
Yes.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more with that. If there's, as long as you're not posting a story and you just have a cover that's a black cover and in white lettering it says this is a book, I think you're gonna be okay. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Hey, I've done those black covers with white fonts. Granted, it was blood-dripping font, but oh well.
Hey, at least it had a little bit of style. That's all I'm saying, you know. All right, number 5. Update your story. Let's face it, Wattpad readers are pretty demanding little minxes. So in order to keep up with other writers, you need to update as often as you can. Have a schedule of updates. A word of caution, though. Don't ever rush yourself. Just let the words flow, and if you can't keep up with the schedule you've made, then don't. But inform your followers so they know.
Well, that was kind of a wishy-washy point, wasn't it? Update, but then don't if you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
It'll work.
I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go on a diet, but I'm going to eat everything. All the foodstuffs.
Yeah, and it also depends, I mean, definitely your writing style. So if the words flow and you want to share it, that's great, but don't put anything out there before it's time either. So, because if it's not good enough, then people, will stop reading. But also, what is your point to satisfy the readers you have and get content out there as quick as possible? Or if you really care about rankings, which, come on, everyone cares about rankings because it also helps get you noticed. If you're at the top of the charts, more people will come to your book. And if you update too often, that will actually hurt you in the rankings. So, definitely once a week, maybe twice a week, but if you update more often, then you're not going to climb as high as you potentially could.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, Aimee?
Completely agree with Rita on that. You have to decide, are you trying to... Readers would take a chapter every day. I think that's what, for a well-told story, I would. That's my preference. If they told me you can buy the book now, I'd take it all. So you have to decide, do I want to rank or do I want to make my readers completely happy? And that's a challenge, and for one series, I've decided I'm just updating every day if I can. It's completely torpedoed it in the ranks. I mean, it's anywhere from 500 to 100, and it will never be in the top because that will kill your rankings. But I really think that it's best to not force yourself to be on a schedule. Do a great job with your story, and if you can get it up in time and you can upload regularly, and you can climb the ranks and keep your readers interested, that's wonderful. But otherwise, just focus on telling a good story.
Aimee?
Okay, what I do is that I write different things. I maybe write a poem or a short story while I get my inspiration to get the long length novels or stories. That's what I do. If something pops in my mind, I go and write a short story or a poem, and I keep my readers following me in the different things that I write.
Like making an appetizer for a really, really nice meal.
Yes.
I love it. And I do like the fact that New Bubble did include a very important point. Inform your followers so they know. I think that's half the battle, is just to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. So, yeah, this is my schedule. This is how it's going to work. All right, and let's see. Number 6, be active on threads. Okay, like here. Like I said, I got this from a thread. You're talking and I'm checking your profile. So yes, being active on threads helps people discover you and thus discover your works as well. Do you have any thread hoppers? Occasionally.
But it's one of my lowest priorities, I'm afraid. I love the forums. I've met some fantastic people there. But when push comes to shove, if something's got to fall off the kitchen counter, it's going to be the forums. And it's crashed over the edge with a ton of other things.
Priorities, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rita, Aimee?
Yeah, I'm the same way too. Yeah.
There are very good threads out there for which you can learn a lot of good stuff, and you can meet or get to know more people. And there are different kind of threads and discussions that we can, like the digital art one, and so there are different things that you can log in and jump and chat a bit to learn some new stuff. So I think that yes, threads are a very good way to improve your numbers.
I like it. Great, thank you. And number 7, Join book clubs. Yes, it can be tiresome and very demanding, but book clubs always help your stories earn reads, comments, votes in a very helpful way because you do it to help other members in the club. Also, there are lots of other clubs that are specifically for your genre. Just explore it.
Very true, but some of them can be very demanding, so make sure you know what you're getting into. I think some book club moderators are harsher with their schedules and demands for participation than others. So yeah, it just depends on which one it is. But I agree, it can definitely be a good way to get your name and stories out there.
If you have the time, go for it.
Great, thank you, ladies. All right, so a new bubble. Thank you so much for sharing this. I hope you don't mind us, exploring these 7 points. So this one is from California Adventure. How to uncliche? A very, very big question because I think it plagues a lot of writers. How do you not write in a cliche way?
I think the most important thing is to read. Read a lot of books. I mean, read a lot and good books. And do some research before you begin writing a story. If you don't want to, if you want to avoid repetitions and take other people's ideas, read and inform yourself. A good writer is a good reader. But don't read to copy ideas. Read to improve your skills and to gain more vocabulary and to ignite your imagination.
I think the other thing, my students, my creative writing students, frequently, I get this question all the time, and they're terrified. And most of the time what I see them do then is they'll take a cliche situation and they'll gender swap it. Or they'll, suddenly the good guy is evil. That's not going to make it uncliche. I'm just going to tell you right now, it does not make it uncliche. It's all cliche now. Cliche stories come up when the story is not developed, when the characters are not developed, when it is predictable, and when there is not a deeper emotional connection. And if you want to uncliche your story, that means you need to understand your story. Let's take Cinderella as a quick example. That is considered one of the most cliche stories out there. I mean, how many retellings have been made over the years? They keep telling that story over and over again. And sometimes it's horrific in that there's no imagination shown whatsoever. Other times it's developed really well. And it comes down to creating characters who people are willing to journey with. Because when you're in the middle of a really good story, it doesn't matter if you've seen it 100 times before, just like it doesn't matter if you can predict what's happening. If you're enjoying that journey and that process, that's great. That's what it comes down to. So don't worry about whether or not this seems cliche. Worry about whether you are telling the story well. Have you created a world to immerse the reader in, characters to remember, and something to take away? And if you've done that, people aren't going to be saying, oh my goodness, did she seriously marry the prince? They're going to be saying, I'm so glad she married the prince. I wanted her to. And one more minor point on that rant, just giving it a sad ending or suddenly everyone dies at the end. No, that's not. And actually, because yes, this is something I'm very passionate about, do not ever say my story is the most unique story ever told. It's not. All that you're telling people is that you have not read any stories like it, so you're more likely exposing your own ignorance to world literature. And it's more than just American pop culture literature out there. There are hundreds of other thousands of other writers, dozens of other countries that have been putting out stories. So that's my mini rant. This is something I'm passionate about.
All right, let's go to the next question. How long do you prefer Wattpad chapters to be? This comes from Alex Stewart Q. I'm just going to go down the line because I think everybody has their own idea about this. Rita?
Well, I think as a reader, I prefer shorter chapters. But as a writer, it's a little harder to fit something in. So it's more like scenes. And in some of my books, I actually post by scene and not chapters. So I may have chapter 1, part 2, part 3. because I've noticed that most Wattpad readers do prefer the shorter versions, and they may still blow through, your chapters. It's just either they like clicking or they like to have the option of stopping if they need to.
Jessica?
I think, for me personally, I prefer 2 to 5 page Wattpad pages. That's about my sweet zone. I definitely don't care for the book chapters where it's 300 words per page, and they're just trying to accumulate all of the votes that they can. But I think this also will come down to know your audience. Know who you want to have reading your story. And usually that's going to go down toward making it shorter. Like if you're dealing with people who have a tight schedule, shorter chapters all the way. People who are doing more leisurely reading, like Catherine Gunzel's Boy in the Woods, I think that was her story, has slightly longer chapters, as does MC Author's Dirty Faces, but they're for leisurely reading, not quick, fast-paced, on the edge of your seat. So know your audience.
I may?
Okay, I think we have to consider, first of all, the kind of story that you are writing, because I think it all depends on the genre. There are some genres that require more lengthy chapters than others, and also I think Wattpad amount of words per page is 800. And I think that those, according to stats, more users use their mobile version than PC versions. So I think they are more comfortable for what I have heard or read before in other situations or conversations like this, is that they prefer from 1.5K to 2K, 2,000 words, from 1,500 to 2,000 words. So if you make the numbers, it's like from 3 to 4 pages average. It's more like Jessica said, it's like from 3 to 5 pages. Is that what you said, Jessica?
Yeah, 2 to 5.
Exactly. So that's the average number, from 1.5 to 2,000 words per chapter. But I think it all depends on the genre that you are writing.
And there you have it, people. I think it really depends on, the writer, the reader, the connection. I don't know. I don't think there's a really wrong answer to this. It really just depends on who you are as a person. All right, here we go. This is Panda Nikki. Does reading over your story give you new ideas?
Yes, all the time. Usually because I discover my own plot holes. No! And by the time you're done patching up the plot holes, particularly from stories you wrote years ago, you're like, this is a whole new story. This is completely different. And sometimes, and what would happen if I were to, oh, you know what, I am going to kill everyone at the end. Wouldn't that be a different story? But yes, I actually have a notebook where I put down all of these different ideas, because you can't do everything you want to do in a single story. I also do that. I do it with other writers' stories too, but particularly if they do something that ticks me off. Like, no, that's unacceptable.
I wouldn't necessarily say that reading over it gives me new ideas, but the more I read my past writing, the more layers I think I could add. So, I could add a little more about, the weather here, or their appearance here, or their mannerisms here. So things that, when you're writing the first couple of drafts, you start with the basics, and then you pile stuff on, but then you can pile that stuff on forever, depending on just how detailed you want things to be, or, I can maybe drop another clue here if there's a mystery element involved, or something that you want to foreshadow. So, it's those types of things.
What or who do people think your character looks like? This is from @metaphorical. I'm just gonna say main character, because and for just one of your stories, or I guess something memorable, where you're writing something and somebody pitches probably the last person that you would think cast, or maybe it's the most popular opinion of your main character. Jessica, do you have somebody in mind?
I do. I actually have a really funny story, but it's a little bit embarrassing, so I was debating whether I want to share it, but I'll go ahead and share it.
Yeah!
Everyone wants those stories. So I've been working on Turo for a very long time, and one of the characters names is Roath, and he's one of the antagonists who everyone just loves, like he's taken over the series entirely. And I've always had a fairly clear vision of this character, and then we were getting ready to move back here, and my husband and our best friends decided we were going to go see The Avengers. Hadn't seen it yet, so we go in, and we're sitting there, and our mom was like, that character really reminds me of someone. It was actually Loki, and I was sitting like, oh my goodness, and then in the middle of the theater, it's right in the scene when he and Black Widow are, having this false interrogation. I lean over and I grab my husband's arm and I squeeze his hand like, that's Rowan! And my husband's like, but then I didn't tell anyone else about that. Of course, granted, I kind of wanted to die and fall under the chair. Like, I cannot believe I just yelled that. Granted, other people were talking in the theater. I was not the only one, thankfully. And I was working on the story, and then I started getting other readers who went and saw the movie too, and they start commenting, it's like, you know what? You know who I see as Roath? I completely see Tom Hiddleston as Roath. And so, not intentional, but that is definitely what has come out, and yeah, that was pretty memorable.
That's awesome. Rita?
I get a lot of suggestions for the Pirate King character, and obviously one of them is like Edward Kenway from Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, and then Chris Hemsworth, I think, has been in a couple, and maybe even Will Turner, because obviously has that Pirates of the Caribbean vibe. So I like it when readers kind of throw those names out there. That's kind of cool.
It can
I
add
think
a
it should
lot.
be Darlie Jameson. Like, she looked the part, like, seriously.
For the readers who do that, though, that does help. It's really cool when readers say who they think is playing a role in the story.
Oh, yeah. It gives, like I said, it makes it so that you know that they're invested in this.
Yes.
Have you ever written a short story or anything where everybody's like, oh, man, I could totally see this person?
Well, it hasn't happened to me, but I have a friend of mine, Lynette. She has a story that she has this black female character. And I don't know why, I always picture Steve's character white. I don't know. And once we were doing this kind of interchanging short stories, and she wrote like a fan fiction about a character of mine, and I wrote a story about her character, and she was like, but she's black. And I was like, well, I don't know why I pictured her white. Like the way, I don't know, maybe it's kind of weird. And then she showed me a picture, and I was like, I don't know. I always picture her white. And I was kind of funny. But I think that I wish I had readers imagine that character the way that I describe them. And but I think it has to do with the people's background and experiences, and what they have in their mind is what they are going to relate your story and characters with. So maybe this is why, even though she described her character as the way she is, with all her history, Lena is a very descriptive writer. I always had in my mind that she was a white character. But I think it all depends on the people's background and what your own experiences, and you connect that and you associate that with what you're reading.
Very much so. It's always going to be, how are you going to connect to this? It's always going to be unique, and I think that's really, really interesting. This is a big one, and it like I said, there are no stupid questions. It's the unasked ones if you're completely oblivious and you have no idea. The fact that you're asking it in the first place is a really big thing. And everybody who we've kind of snatched these questions off the forums, thank you for asking them on Wattpad, because well, first of all, I bet you didn't think that we would design an episode around this. But we hope that you're getting some really useful advice and some really useful answers out of this. This comes from at Mika Nagakami. I believe that's how you say it. What is a subplot?
Oh, I think both stories have subplots. It's the different situations that you put into the story that help the plot, different situations that each character has. That might be a subplot, and if that event or that specific situation doesn't occur in your story, there will be a hole in the plot. So the subplots are very important aspects in writing because they enrich the story. And it can be a dialogue, it can be a personal situation of a certain character, it can be maybe a backdrop story within a situation. So I think that is something that helps the main plot to develop.
That's great.
I agree, but I think that a subplot, if you remove it from the book, the basic meaning of your story would still be the same, but it wouldn't, like Aimee said, it wouldn't be as rich, it wouldn't be as detailed. So you definitely want to have subplots, and also just to not have your story be so one-dimensional as well. So I think that's why it's important to include them.
Awesome.
And I think it also depends on the genre that you're writing, because maybe in historical fiction or romance or sci-fi, subplots are very important because they make the story more complex and more interesting to the reader when you put this little bit in aspects of each character or situation or previous or backstories. Maybe something that happened in the past or something that will happen in the future, but they contribute to the main plot. So it all depends on the genre that you are writing. So maybe if you're writing maybe a contemporary, whatever, romance, maybe this background story is not that important than in a historical fiction. So it depends on the genre that you're writing.
I like the fact that you say contributes to the story, because if it has no, if it's not tangent to what you're telling, if you're just saying it just for the word count or whatever you're trying to, I don't know.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's just, really, why did I need to know that piece of information?
And I think subplots are also good, little seeds to potentially have spin-off stories of, so that that one character that had a little role in your main story, and then perhaps another book they could be the main character, so they would evolve into their own main plot.
There you go. Awesome.
Absolutely.
This is from at Megan Kane writes, tips on creating tension and pacing.
Well, I think one of the most important things you can do to start creating tension and for your pacing is to start establishing questions that your reader wants to have answered. And one of the metaphors I like, or one of the things I like to consider it as is like a roller coaster. You need to have moments of breathing and moments of exhilaration. So don't just make it nonstop. Well, no, you can, but just know what you're doing when that happens. My favorite example of that was Raiders of the Lost Ark, which has, you have intense action sequences followed by, all right, now we can rest and get a little bit of comedy, breathe a little bit, and then here comes more action, and on it goes. But with tension, remembering, ask questions and make us care about the characters. That was one of the best pieces of advice I got from Stephen King's On Writing, is that make us care about these characters and then let out the monsters. I mean, because otherwise, who cares if they're being chased? But that sounds incredibly terrible to talk about people that way. But it's true. In stories, you're not going to care. It's like random people running through. So help them to care about the characters, know who they are as individuals. Don't take too long, of course. And watch the use of violence or anything else just for shock value, because the more often you throw it out there, the less meaningful it can be. Make sure it still has that punch to it and that it's being effective.
Aimee. This is, I love their moniker because it's one of my favorite bands from my childhood. It's from at Blink182 - how do you write kiss scenes?
Oh, well, I try to feel the kiss. and I want to transmit what do I feel when I've been kissed or when I want to kiss someone. A kiss is like art. It's what I think. You don't go kissing randomly people, so you don't go randomly writing kissing scenes. So if when you want to kiss someone, you know there's some preparation and some things that you have to feel. So I want to transmit that specific thing when I feel with descriptions, with precise words, and with images. Images is a must. Oh my God, and colors. Why not? Like when you close your eyes and see a lot of wrinkling colors. Well, that's what you want to transmit when you write a kissing thing. It's like when you write erotica or a romance scene. It's the same. You need to transmit and make the reader. It's like how I say, you want the reader be in the bed with the character and feel everything that the character feels.
Yeah, the more descriptive the better, and they're going to connect with it a lot better too. That's absolutely.
So,
At the Writer's Diary asks, does your first sentence intrigue the reader? And I know that yours does, Rita, regardless of what you're writing, but how do you do it?
You definitely have to spend a lot of time on your first sentence. That is your first impression. If you mess up your first sentence, you may lose your reader right there. So you have to make sure that it pops. Don't start with the weather. Don't start with them waking up. Don't use any of those tired tropes. A lot of people don't like it when a story starts off with just dialogue. That's not written in stone. It could work, but like Jessica said earlier, that you have to make sure that your readers care about your characters. So start off with something that introduces us, preferably to your main character. Don't try not to start with like a flashback or things like that. Just have them in the present and have them doing something interesting. It's always tricky to know exactly where to start a story, so your first sentence definitely has to fit in with then establishing the pace and kind of the atmosphere of what you're going to be going for. And then once you have that first sentence correct and perfect, then it's your first page, so the first 250, 300 words. Again, focus on them, make sure that they're the best that they can be, that it's at the right place, you're telling the right story, you're leading the readers into the rest of the book. If you grab them on the first page, they're very likely to stay with at least the first chapter, and then, on to the next one.
There's so much to establish in that very small space. You got to do tone and characterization and make sure that people understand this is your style, this is how you do it, and then also make it alluring. It's a lot of work, absolutely. Yes,
saying style, like the voice. You hear, people in this industry talk about voice, and it's so hard to describe. But when you read something with voice, you know it. It's the style. It's like knowing that person, knowing what they are, what their background is, without like that elaborate backstory, just with the way they talk and they think and they act. So it's very important. Yep.
And Sean Zierhoff from our YouTube page, it is actually from our last episode, he went on to ask, where do you get writing prompts? Jessica, can you fill in the blank on that one?
Yes, I love writing prompts. I actually came up with prompt novels for a while where I would just grab all of these random phrases and then, Thor, stop that. Okay, off you go.
Such a diva.
Yeah, he is. I have to banish him from this room. Hold on, I have this now. Okay. So, my favorite kind of writing prompts are actually to take random phrases, and you can get these by just opening up books and grabbing out like a random phrase, like right here. I'm going to pull this out. So, the fear of death thick spider webs and grab another book, knees and hills, and just write that down. And now you must come up. Yeah. You just grab them completely random, and now you have to write a scene that incorporates those. This way, you'll never run out of writing prompts if you're just grabbing random phrases, pull in 3 or 4, something like that, and then just see what comes. You'll be amazed at what your mind comes up with. I actually do have a writing prompt book on my profile that I'm getting ready to update this afternoon, actually, where I include longer, like, story prompts that have a little bit more of a setup to them. And those are great, but if you don't have any handy, then play the what if game. Watch your favorite movie, watch or see what's on TV, or even a commercial, and just ask, well, what if this key element was different? Like, let's take Star Wars Episode 4. What if Luke Skywalker missed, you know, at that last fatal moment? Then what happens? Well, that's probably going to be really bad, but now you have to find a way to keep Luke Skywalker alive. And just see what happens there. And you can come up with all kinds of really cool things if you just start playing the what-if game. So, and then, a very fun therapeutic way to get writing prompts. Think about something that really upset you, or like a nightmare you had, something that happens, and rewrite it with a better ending, or have the last word in that one argument that you completely botched, and find a way to work it into a story. So really, I think getting writing prompts is just as much about observation. If you keep looking for things, you'll find all sorts of things to write about. And some of it's going to be weird, but that's really fun when it is.
That's great. And I want to thank everybody once again for, posting on the forums on Wattpad and asking these questions in a very public, general way. And hopefully, like I said, you got something out of this. We really enjoy doing these kinds of these episodes, or even working them into an episode where it's tangent or not even relating to the subject that we're talking about. We love it, interacting with you on a very personal level. So please keep them coming. Like I said, there's a variety of ways that you can do it. We have a Facebook page. We're of course on Wattpad.com. You can find us all on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. We're everywhere. So just come on over and find us. And now we're to the portion of the broadcast which we call Pass the Salt. It is a time where these panelists get to take a stab at 140 characters or less and giving just an opinion, factoid, general observation, just something that's on their mind and they like to share with you. After they share it here on the broadcast, they are going to be tweeting them on Twitter, and look for them with our hashtag. Of course, it is TCBWatt. Rita, what do you got for us?
Well, today I don't have anything too philosophical. It's just pretty cut and dry, but here it is. It's NaNoWriMo, so get those creative juices flowing and get the words on the paper.
Yeah, that's good enough for me, seriously.
Yes.
Get them on the paper, get them on the page. It is definitely important that you do so. Hopefully everybody participating in NaNoWriMo is having a fantastic time doing so. May, what do you got?
Okay, I just wrote this one now, and it reads like follows. If you don't hear birds, close your eyes. The most beautiful images are in the soul of a writer.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Jessica, close us out, please.
All right. Don't worry whether your story is cliched. Tell it as best you can with memorable characters and a compelling voice. Your way.
Boom. Yeah, that's right. I love it. That's awesome. All right, everybody. We're down to the wire. This is Check, Please. It's just a summation of everything that we've been doing during this broadcast. We want to thank you again. If you ever have a question, you can post them on these forums, and I'm not saying that somebody's going to come along and construct an episode around your question, but they will more likely than not engage with you. There are just hundreds and hundreds of threads on every single one of the Wattpad forums. If you just want to explore a little bit more and on a different level, what Wattpad can do, take a look. The worst that can happen is you're just going to say, oh, this isn't for me. But yeah, hopefully there's some really useful information there that you can find. We do want to let everybody know about this fantastic group. It's called the Watt Padres. Jessica, what can you tell us about what this amazing elite group is doing this week?
All right. Well, this week, Tuesday at 8 p.m., the Watt Padres are going to be hosting a Twitter chat. it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about writing groups, how you create them, how people can connect, and various tips like that. I think that Sarah Benson is hosting this one. It's Sarah or Amber, and I'm really excited. I know they're going to have some great tips, and actually, we've seen Rita and Aimee and Nat at all of them, so it's like a corner booth kind of reunion, and it's been lots of fun participating with everyone. So we get everybody else's tips too. So stop by, share your tips for making a group and connecting, and we'll be sharing ours too.
It's a lot of fun. It's an hour, but the hour goes by so fast because, I mean, you're constantly reading all of these tweets that are happening at the same time. It's one of the most fun version of a chat room ever. It's really, really great.
And we have a game.
Oh, yeah.
We always have a game every week.
Of course, you're automatically in right there. So I want to thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast. Hopefully you're having a lot of fun with this canned episode. If I'm really hoping that I can participate in the chat, the comment that's happening with this. We're going to be going back to our usual format next week, which will be another live broadcast. So check out our hashtag for details on that, and we'll get all that information to you then. Ladies, if you'd please say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.